Hey, folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tornado 2020. It's like the compact with the ball red hot,
All right,
ready to go.
gonna give me some wins this week. Had another dud last week. Unreal. Not a single win. Um, and I also struck out on the contender series. Only one underdog won on the contender series, and there was one fight that was pretty boring that went the distance. But yeah, not my best night for sure. Let's see if I can find that other one. But also, the big favorite last week lost his fight, and it didn't help that I was at the casino losing money as well. the night, uh, the night the UFC fights were last Saturday. Yeah, one of my worst nights at the casino so far. I got suckered into this bingo game that was like tic tac toe and bingo combined, and
You don't play bingo, not especially at the little lake.
no, it wasn't actual bingo. It
Yeah.
was a slot machine, and it was like a
Oh,
bingo themed game. And so you had to get like all the way across the line of prizes for it to start giving you the jackpot stuff, and all sorts of stuff would happen. But like there's like two little boxes that I'm waiting for, and I put like $100 in trying to get those two little boxes to reveal themselves. And yeah, that's the trap. You gotta keep putting money in. Then when you win, it's like half as much as you put in. So at that point, I was like, all right, forget about this one. The hardest thing to do is like you get a big jackpot on one of those of like $50 or more going, and then you just got to walk away because the machine is gonna take it all away from you eventually. That's how
yep.
they get you. So you got to go to a different machine.
Oh,
If you don't hit on that machine within the first 5 spins, you go to a different machine. Like that's ultimately the thing I found is the best way to go about it. If there is a best way to gamble on slot machines. It is a tricky business. Anyway, so Marcin Tybura last week let me down. Sergey Spivak ended up with the quick submission in that fight. Not sure what the odds were for him to get a submission, but it was the second time around for the guys, or both of them, and Tybura won the first fight, but Spivak got his armbar just 1 minute and 44 seconds into this one. So first round submission must have been unreal odds. But I did not bet that. Then we had Jose Mariscal and Damon Jackson. That was one I followed the experts on for the most part. I think I did one hedge for Damon Jackson, but Jose did what he does best. He got his decision win. A lot of people picked him by decision as well. Just had the better wrestling. Just basically better game plan. Jackson just was outclassed, period. And then Danny Barlow was expected to knock out Nikolai Veretennikov, but Veretennikov ended up taking him to a split decision in a very tight fight. Barlow just did not seem to have any urgency this time around. He just was content cruising through the entire fight. And then, as I suspected, and as the odds favored him, Chris Gutierrez pulled off a good win by unanimous decision. So if I just did money line on Mariscal, Barlow, and Gutierrez, I would have made all right, but not so much. Giannis Santos before that, winning by unanimous decision over Chelsea Chandler. Toshiomi Kazama pulled off the upset of the night. Not one single expert or guys making the videos saying this is what to bet on ever could have even imagined Kazama would win this fight. Never mind by submission in the second round. Everybody was on Gregorio. And I did look up while I was at the casino and see the end of this fight, and I was not surprised. Gregorio was just like not able to capitalize on his striking, and then when it got to the ground, he was like a fish out of water. So, not an expert friendly pick there. Rosa before that over Penny Kianzad, that was pretty well predicted, decision and everything. So that really didn't give me any hiccups. Jonata Denise, I had a lot of bets with him by knockout, but he ended up winning by decision over Carl Williams. That was a surprise. He likes to knock people out in the first round. And Yusuf Zalal, another big favorite. Everybody expected him to beat Aarons, and he did by rear naked choke. Won first round, 3 minutes and 52 seconds in. And we had Stephanie Luciano in the first fight of the night, beating Talita Alencar. Not out of the realm of most people's picks there. That was expected. And like I always say, the female fights, to go the distance, one of the safest bets you can make. All three of these girls' fights went the distance, so that would have been a nice safe bet on that card. It used to be the women would show up to fight and they would have stoppages all over the place, but not so much lately. Now, this upcoming UFC card is coming to us from Perth, Western Australia. There's a lot of home area guys on the card. And we also have a Professional Fighters League playoff card with 11 bouts, headlined by Impa Kasangane and Joshua Silveira. Kasangane 17-4, Silveira 13-3. This is a rematch of last year's championship. And Kasangane pretty much handled Silveira there. I think he's going to do it again. One expert I saw did choose Silveira by money line, but I just don't see it. Just don't see it. Kasangane is kind of like one of the faces of the organization. He's in their commercials. He's just opened a new gym. He's did a grand opening video of. He seems pretty well focused on the future and doesn't seem like he's gonna have any hiccups in this fight. So that's my bet on that one. Let's see what else we got. Let's looked at any of these down. Oh, yeah, I did. Then we have Rob Wilkinson in the co-main event, 19-2, fighting Dovletsan Yagmuradov. 23-7-1 for Yagmuradov and 19-2 for Wilson. And I like Wilkinson. I really like Rob Wilkinson's striking. A lot of people are entertained by it. It's just very crisp punches and elbows and knees, all that good stuff. Yeg Shamaradov, he's got a big record. He's got a lot of fights, but just 7 losses. Yeah, let's see how he's lost. He's got a pretty good win streak going in the PFL and Bellator. The last fight he lost was Carl Albertson, who is also on this card. Beat Simon Bayong by unanimous decision in his last fight. Jacob Nadeau by TKO before that, first round. So he's got 2 TKOs in his win streak, 5-fight win streak, and 3 decisions, all unanimous. So I'd say I don't think he's knocking out Razor Rob here, who is from the area, Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. Wilkinson just beat the guy in the main event too, Josh Silveira, by split decision. If Yagmuradov does win, it'll probably be by decision, but I'd go probably Rob Wilkinson knockout. He has 10 knockouts to go with his 19 wins. A knockout or decision would be a good bet there. Then we have Gadzi Rabadanov, 22-4-1, fighting Michael Dufort, who is 13-5. Rabadanov is pretty intense, very technical type fighter. He may not get the stoppage, but he will definitely grind out a decision. He's got 11 decisions, so 50% decision winning record. 6 knockouts and 5 submissions. Yeah, 4 losses. He has 2 knockout losses, 1 submission loss, and 1 decision loss. But he has not lost since 2020 when he was in the EFC organization. Won every fight he's fought in Bellator. Won a Ryzen fight and won both of his PFL fights so far. So Dufour, I bet on him before. He's looked good going into a fight and just ended up getting the loss. I think that was in the Piccolotti fight. But he has beaten a pretty good name in Mads Burnell back in 2024. Submitted him by guillotine choke. Don't think he's going to be able to do that with Ramadanov. Just a really tough customer. And then we got Brent Primus versus the boxer turned MMA fighter Clay Collard. This one I really think could go either way. Brent Primus has been known to drain the gas tank going into like the late second and early third rounds. He's not looked pretty sometimes, but he's been good enough to beat a couple guys in a row by submission in the late part of the rounds. Second and third. Solomon Renfro last, and then Bruno Miranda before that. Had a no contest with Usman Nurmagomedov, and he beat Mansour Barnoui by unanimous decision. He's really only lost to like real first-class competitors: Michael Chandler, Islam Mamedov, and Alexander Chablis. So I really like Primus in this one, but he's facing Clay Collard, Cassius Clay. 25 and 13, 12 knockout wins, 3 submissions, and 10 decisions. I would say if Clay wins this, it's going to be by TKO or decision. I don't think he's going to pull off a submission. Sorry. He has not had a submission win since 2018, so don't look for that to happen. Brent Primus is obviously a submission guy if he's got 2 in a row, so he's probably going to avoid the ground altogether if he can, Clay, that is. But his last fight against Mads Burnell was not very impressive. He just was a little bit squeamish on the ground, didn't really get back to his feet quick enough. And of all the punches he threw, they were really just kind of like Meldrick Taylor style, very fast with no power.
Oh, yeah.
Not as fast as Meldrick, nobody really is, but definitely a lot more flurries than the knockout combinations. I don't think that's going to cut the mustard against Brent. So my heart is with Clay. I love watching him do back and forth action in both sports, but he's just, I think he's probably better off pursuing the boxing career at this point. He's just not really clicking on all cylinders in MMA. He's lost 3 of his last 4. The last win he had was a TKO of Patricky Freire, who is the lesser talented of the Freire brothers, the Pitbull boys.
Mhm.
But anything is possible. You know, I throw a flyer on Clay just for shits and giggles. He's probably a heavy underdog. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Sometimes boxing guys do really well in MMA. Other times it's just a clash of styles. And I think Brent doesn't have as much experience, but he's got a little bit more talent. So that's going to be my final pick on that one. Then we got Muhammad Ali's grandson, Biagio Ali Walsh, fighting a newcomer, 0-0, Brian Stapleton. Ali Walsh is just 1-0, but everybody's predicting him by knockout. He's just 1-0. He does have almost all of his amateur fights coming by knockout as well. But his first PFL fight was a decision win. Maybe because the guy's 0-0, Brian Stapleton. I don't know. I'd say TKO or decision. What would be the safer bet? It's probably less odds, but it's definitely safer. And then we got Danny Sabatello versus Lazaro Dayron. Now, this is one you might be able to make some money on. Danny Sabatello is like a very huge favorite And they call him the Italian gangster. So maybe the people he fights thinks they're gonna be whacked if they lose. If they beat him. So he calls himself the Italian gangster. 5 submission wins, 3 knockouts, 6 decisions. But he has lost 4 times. 1 knockout, 1 submission, and 2 decisions. And the guy he's fighting is undefeated. And Sabatello, although they're pretty tough dudes, he has lost his last 2 fights. Rafion Stotts and Magomed Magomedov also had a previous loss to Rafion Stotts. And his last win was April of 2023 by rear naked choke over Marcos Brino, who was 15-3 at the time, or is 15-3 now, I should say. So very tough customer there. Lazaro Dayron, 8-0. He's got 3 knockout wins, and he likes to knock people out in the first round. He's got 2 knockouts in the first round, 1 in the third. But he's fought at all these feeder leagues. This is his first PFL fight, any level close to it. Combate Global seems to be his promotion of choice. Also fought in Titan FC and Lights Out Extreme Fighting. But he has been winning. I mean, he's got a lot of knockouts, bunch of decisions, and it's like 2 submissions if you count the submission to punches. Submitted a guy named Birdsong. John Birdsong. Submission, rear naked choke. That was his last win, was by submission as well. So would not be crazy to throw a flyer out. Sole bet, 1 lone bet, 1 leg. Lazaro Dayron by TKO or submission. It's definitely possible. Probably not probable, but Sabatello is a huge betting favorite. So there's not much you can do there if you bet on him, except maybe a decision bet might be lower negatives. Then we got Elvin Espinoza. I got a bet on him already in a parlay. He is 10-1 fighting Mads Burnell, who is 19-6, and you got a little bit of youth versus experience here. Mads, a very wrestling heavy fighter, likes his takedowns, leads to a lot of submissions and a lot of decisions. Out of 19 wins, he only has 1 knockout. So, probably one of those fighters who, if you keep him on the feet, he's going to be in trouble. And the only guy that Espinoza has lost to is Gadzi Rabadanov, who is on the same card, and that was a unanimous decision win in his last fight for Gadzi. But Espinoza has beat some pretty tough guys, and he's been in the PFL for quite a bit of fights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights. And he's knocked out Adam Piccolotti by flying knee and had a rear naked choke in the first round in his PFL debut. So yeah, I like him to win this one. I guess I'd go probably decision or submission. Looks like he favors the submissions. Submission or yeah, KO or submission, I think. Or no, decision or submission, I think. He's only had a couple KOs. Well, in the PFL, he's only had 1 technically. He has had a lot of submissions though. Just against a guy that's got 9 of them, I don't know if he's gonna try much of that. Maybe it's better to go TKO or knockout. I mean TKO or decision. But we'll see. That's definitely one you might consider the money line for. Mads Burnell, obviously capable of winning himself on that one. I just like Espinoza. Then we got Thad Jean and Chris Brown. A lot of the experts are picking Jean by money line or knockout. Brown has had a 1.5 year layoff. He's got a very frustrating style from what I've heard. I have not really researched much as far as watching his fights or anything. But he's got 5 knockout wins, 4 decisions, 1 submission, and all 4 of his losses come by decision. So probably safe to say knockout or decision if you're going to pick Brown. But I do like Gene. Call him a silverback. He's got 4 of his 7 wins by knockout, 2 decisions, 1 submission, and he's got 2 knockouts in a row, both in the first round in the PFL. So first round knockout is obviously a good live bet. Or not live bet, because you probably can't do a parlay on a live bet. All right, getting through there. Then we've got Jordan Oliver against Braden Akeo. Jordan Oliver is a college wrestler. I think he was in the Olympics. Might have been in the Olympics at one point. Wrestler fights out of Killcliff FC featherweight. His 1 win came by way of submission by arm triangle choke against Andrew Triolo. That was just 1 minute into their fight, basically. Guy's fighting has a lot more experience. He's 5-3. 3 wins by knockout, 1 submission, 1 decision. Has been submitted once, so that's good news for Oliver. And he's got 2 decision losses, and he's lost 3 out of his last 5. Has not fought in the PFL yet, so that's a big bonus for Oliver. And surprisingly enough, Oliver is the pick. Even though he has less experience, I think he's a good money line bet across the board. Good stuff there. And then Michelle Montague, she is undefeated at 5-0. Also had a very impressive amateur record. And let's see, where is this? It's from Hollywood, Florida. I think she's a hometown fighter there. Let me see. No, she's from New Zealand. She's hometown for the UFC, so she's late for Perth. She should be down there in Perth for the UFC fights. It's all 5 wins come by way of submission for Michelle. Bellator and PFL in her last 3, and she's looked pretty good. Either first or second round submission seems to be her finish area. And she does have 1 fight against Danielle Wynn that went into the 3rd round. And she's lost only 2 fights in her amateur career by decision. So if you're going to go with Morelia Moraes, also somebody who's had a long layoff, she last fought in July of 2023. Before that, her last fight was in 2018. And obviously, not fighting since 2018 and then picking up a fight in 2023, it did not go well for her. She lost to Rebecca Evans by TKO. And she was submitted in her very first fight in the very first round, so I think it's safe to say Michelle Montague by submission in this one. This first round submission would be a good one to throw at the wall. So, all right. Then we go to Dana White's Contender Series that just happened. We only have 5 fights to talk about, so this should be pretty quick. Wesley Schultz. I was depending on him to pay off me because he was the underdog going in the main event, and this Mansour Abdul Malik had just such little experience. He had a lot of first round finishes, and he's 5-0, but just did not have a lot of game time experience. And he went into the second round. I thought it was great news for Wesley Schultz, but Schultz pretty much just ran into a wall, lost all his energy, as they call it in gambling. He blew his wad, and that was it. He just did not have much conditioning to fall back on, and Abdul Malik just ended up TKOing him. But yeah, could have definitely been a better fight for Schultz if he had some gas in the tank to finish that round, because he was looking good up until that point. He was doing a lot of great wrestling and tiring Mansour out, but Mansour was just way better conditioned Way better. So it was not party time. The Dana White Contender Series on Tuesday night. That's Wesley's nickname. It was Mansour's day. And we had Rami Hamed. He was the only underdog to win, beating Meng Ding. I thought Hamed would win by TKO. I had him on most of my parlays for TKO win. Meng Ding, I got the lowdown on him from watching one of the videos, the betting videos, and Meng Ding has a shitload of experience, but it's against like tomato cans over in Japan or China. So yeah, it really wasn't coming in with the crazy kind of power that he needed to deal with Rami Hamed. And Hamed came in with this big reputation for stopping people with leg kicks. I think he actually only landed like 3 leg kicks in the entire fight. It was pretty pathetic, like that's your damage thing. You got to use it. I think he would have got the knockout if he used them more. But he also, I think, had some knee surgery, so that might have had something to do with it. Who knows? Bruno Lopez living up to form against Mikhail Saziani. Talk about a guy who gassed out. He was looking good in the first round and landing some good shots. Very unorthodox windmill haymakers, but definitely making his connections and frustrating Bruno Lopez. Then he just lost his gas tank, started slacking off, and Bruno Lopez saw it, took advantage of it, and ended the fight in the second round, 4 minutes and 14 seconds in. And we had Jose Delgado at featherweight beating Ernie Juarez by knockout from knees and punches. And that was pretty expected, even though Delgado was taking it on short notice. That was a good expert pick. I had a good feeling after that second fight because I had Lonnie Kavanaugh in the first one by money line and knockout. And he won by knockout against Antoine Ho. That was a pretty brutal knockout. Ho was out for a while. Ho was pretty much just hit with one big left hook, and he fell down like a tree getting cut down. It was bad. Just 2 minutes and 35 seconds into the whole fight. Wild one. All right, so we go to the boxing, and we'll go back to the UFC 305 event towards the end of the show here. Now let's start with the results from last week. Let's see what we got. We had some fights on Tuesday in Japan, Tokyo. Tetsuro Ohashi losing by knockout to Ryusuke Kawarura. Improves to 12-2, wins the WBO Asia Pacific Super Flyweight title. Ohashi falls to 12-4-1. And we had Monday fights. A majority decision for Tanache Charanfak, who is 25-1 now and owns the WBO Asia Pacific Flyweight title, beating Kento Hatanaka, who was undefeated. Now he's 15-1. That was in Nagoya, Japan. All right, Saturday. The Mafia won on Saturday. Ibrahim Mafia, 9-0-1. Talk about a name. Who you fighting? Mafia? What? You're fighting the whole Mafia? No, just one guy. He is fighting, or he was fighting. Doesn't have the record. It doesn't have the results, but it just has an orange box with question mark in it. We're supposed to guess. He was fighting Prazitsak Faprom, who was 41-2-2 against a 9-0 fighter. Wow. Now I'm curious who really won that fight. Okay. Mandalay Bay in Vegas, we had a big card. Virgil Ortiz Jr. winning, staying undefeated, 22-0 now. Beating Sergey Bohachuk, falls to 24-2. That was for the WBC Interim World Super Welterweight title.
Yeah, close fight. I didn't get to see the whole thing. But, the underdog came to play. getting a what do you go pattern of that late?
Hmm.
Crawford had a close one, Ortiz had a close one. Had to get off canvas. I know one of them I thought was more of a clip, but you know, once again, he's not totally invincible. Even a few weeks ago, Steve Kenner, had some rough moments. Him, like 300 been coming straight lately.
Yeah, definitely. Gabriela Fundora winning her fight. Good night for undefeated fighters. She stayed undefeated with a little bit better outcome. Instead of a majority decision, she won by unanimous decision over Daniela Asenio for the IBF World Flyweight title. Fundora improves to 14-0. Asenio 16-4-3 now at flyweight. And then another female fight, Cecilia Brecus, winning a unanimous decision over Maricela Cornejo. Brecus creeping up on 40 wins. She's got 38 now, 2 losses and 1 draw. Cornejo just lost her 7th fight, looking for win number 20. Did not get it. And then we had some fights in Albuquerque that were on right after the UFC fights the other night, which were actually ended pretty early for once. Luis Alberto Lopez coming in as the heavy favorite, but Angelo Leo was the hometown guy. And boy, knockout of the year candidate for sure. In the 10th round, I actually was watching it live, and Leo just wow. It reminded me of an incident in hockey years back where a guy named Leo McSorley was skating for the Bruins, and it was a Canadian team, either Montreal or Toronto, but they were up in Canada somewhere, and Leo McSorley clotheslined the guy. And it was just like perfect timing. They were skating together real quick. He just put his elbow up, and it was such a bad hit. The guy ended up on the ground for quite a while, and they contemplating charging McSorley with assault. It was so bad. Different government up there in Canada. It would never happen in the United States, but they actually were looking at potential assault charges over it. The guy really got hurt. But anyway, yeah, this was that type of knockout. It just came out of nowhere. Leo was holding his own in the fight, but Lopez seemed like he was on his way to a probably good unanimous decision. And then Leo just laid him right out. It was beautiful. Did you see that one, Tony?
No.
No. Good one to find highlights of that one because it's a good fight to watch the ending of anyway. Then we had a split decision in the co-main event. Brian Flores winning by split decision, staying undefeated. It's 27-0-1 now. That one was for just a Latino super lightweight title, but 2 guys undefeated with more than 20 wins. That's seems like a world title fight, but WBO Latino super lightweight title no longer vacant. It's now with Brian Flores. Adolfo Delgado takes his first loss. It's kind of crazy there were 2 Delgados fighting. One on the Contender Series and one on the boxing, just days apart. Guess it's a popular enough name. All right, some amateur fights. Friday night we had our Angel fight of the week. Paid off for the Angel. Angel Ayala Lardazabal. 17-0, now 18-0, beating Dave Apollinario, who was undefeated at 20-0. Now he's 20-1. And he got knocked out in the 6th round to give Angel the IBF World Flyweight title. He's an Angel and a champion. It's weird. They have the result of that one. I know this is in Mexico City, but they have the result of that one, and then they have another fight on the card that happened on Friday, and they have a question mark next to it. Okay, how do you know the main event results if you don't know the other fight on the card? Weird. All right. So we go to the schedule for this weekend. Gotta get rid of the ads. Box Rec and there's. Oh, by the way, Box Rec has gotten itself involved in a little controversy. There's Turk, the Sheik Turk Alex Sheikh, or whatever heck his name uh, is supposedly trying to create a knockoff of BoxRec called Fight Facts. Have you guys heard anything about this?
I did not hear about
Yeah, I just read about this the other day. So apparently,
that. Is he going to have 334-0 record of Charlie Zillinoff is my question.
I don't know. I don't know. Undefeated, right? Uh, so basically, I guess this Fight Facts company tried to compete with BoxRec before, but it wasn't successful. So now the Sheikh is trying to get in there and copy all the information from BoxRec and even copy the format a little bit and create a new BoxRec called Fight Facts. And they're hoping that becomes the mainstay for the industry. But BoxRec has gotten word of it, and it happened ironically after the Sheikh actually tried to buy out BoxRec, but he was unsuccessful. I don't know why BoxRec wouldn't sell to the guy. I mean, he's got billions. But, they wanted to keep it. So now they're going to have to deal with the knockoff. Kind of reminds me of Bill Gates and Microsoft Windows, how he stole it from Xerox. But only if Fight Facts becomes super widely successful, which, I mean, if the story gets around that they stole it from BoxRec, I don't think it really will. Um, and you can steal all the info, but if it's not easily accessible and user friendly, it's gonna suck. So that's what's going on there. Got some fights in Argentina here listed on Saturday. Tobias Reyes coming in at 15-0-1 against Jackson Zapata 9-0-2 at flyweight for the South American flyweight title and the WBO Latino flyweight title. Somebody's O's got to go. And Carlos Maria Alanis, 13-1, fighting Carlos Henrique Rodriguez da Silva. That's an anomaly right there. A four-name guy, Latino, no Jesus in there. Enrique Rodriguez de Silva. So Carlos is going to win this one. No surprise. They're both named Carlos. But Carlos Enrique is 16-2-1 at super featherweight. That one's for a title too. WBO Latino super featherweight title, which is vacant. And then we got an ESPN card from Quebec City. Christian Mbile, who is 27-0, fighting Sergey Derevyanchenko, who is 15-5 at super middleweight. That's for the WBC Continental America Super Middleweight title. And another fight worth mentioning, undefeated Osleys Iglesias, 11-0, fighting Sina Agbeco, who is 28-3. Iglesias, not a lot of fights, but he's ranked number 6 at super middleweight in the world. Agbeco with 28-3 as a record is only number 47 at super middleweight. That's kind of crazy. We got our Guido fight of the week. Guido Vianello, 12-2-1 at heavyweight, fighting Arslan Makhmudov, who is 19-1. That should be a good one. And we got some stuff not televised. Well, I guess it is on ProBox TV. Oh no, that's the stadium. ProBox TV Event Center. We got Jarrett Hurd, 25-3 at middleweight, fighting Jason Rosario, 24-4-1. No title there. And we still got a TBA on this card. Well, that's next Wednesday, that's why. I guess it's a slow week for boxing this weekend. Not a lot going.
I think the news yesterday was pretty exciting. There's a undefeated U.S. Olympic medalist from the Olympics 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I guess. Um, Richard Torres.
Oh yeah, before
Yeah,
his fights.
he signed to fight my buddy Joey DeWitt.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, that's interesting for a first fight. Torres, I don't know, all knockout. Fighting, wrestling machine. It comes out there and he swings. It's probably fun to watch. I remember watching this fight just a month or two ago. And he took some shots in there, but then he just, overwhelmed the guy. Got him pretty good. And you know, knocked him out. You know, he, not a significant layoff, but he had multiple layoffs. He's been keeping busy, and I saw him not that long ago. I mean, when he had told me via messenger, he had something. I said, okay, he just got announced. He's going to play on ESPN Plus on the 20th against Richard Torres. That'll be a good crossroads fight. And what's interesting about it is people don't realize that Joey, for being a big, burly guy, like 5'8", 240 pounds, is a well-paid boxer. He can jab, he can move. But sometimes, if he sits on his hand, and if the guy doesn't try to stand right in front of him, he can cut his back. This is a thing where he won't have to wait, worry about the guy going to bay. And Rick, of course, is going to come right at. And I think these two are really going to make for a good fight. I think Joey can box him a little bit, but I think he's going to go out there, and I think it's going to be, um, a back and forth rock and fucking robot, which is a place to stand.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know the whole card, but our boys over at BKFC have an event this weekend, August 16th in Kansas City. And it's a guy named Lindsay versus a guy named Brito. Lindsay versus Brito. See if I can click on the card here. Get to it. I haven't watched a lot of it, but just enough. Of course, they don't have the guy's first name on here. Lindsay versus Brito. Lindsay's 4-1. Brito's 6-4. Then we got Vincent versus Coltrane. Vincent 2-1. Coltrane 3-1. Johnson versus Jones. Undefeated because they have no experience in BKFC. Period 0-0. Their records. Then we got Kaiser versus Fernier. Fernier is 0-2. Kaiser is 0-0. Kaiser looks like he's up there in age too. Carlos versus Peralta. Peralta 1-2. Carlos coming in to make his debut. We got Martinez versus Warbritton. Martinez 0-3. Warbritton 1-0. Martinez obviously looking for his first win there. Boy, one of the meanest women I've ever seen. She looks like a convicted felon man. Jesus. A girl named Alvarez 1-0. She's fighting this crazy looking girl with a neck tattoo. Gelner is 0-0, but I would not sell her short. Talk about somebody needs a gender test. Jesus. I doubt it says male on her birth certificate. We got Orr, not Bobby, but some black guy named Orr fighting Garrett. So I hate that they don't have these guys' first names. But Orr is 0-0, Garrett is 0-0, looking for their first wins. Then we got Aiken versus Guyman, also two debuting fighters. But they're bringing in fighters all over the place. I noticed that the tattoo ratio for these MMA, these BKFC fighters is just off the charts. Like, I don't think you can get into bare knuckle if you don't have tattoos. Yeah, and it's like a lot of them with almost full body tattoos. It's crazy. Even the fat guys have tattoos. Nuts. Anyway, and we got Pringle versus Schwan. We got the potato chip versus the delivery service. Pringle 0-0, Schwan 0-0. Not really much to talk about there. All right. Let's see what else we got. I think we got to go into the UFC fight now. Do we have any other news stories? Talked about that last week. We talked about Mohammed Mokaev. Dana White ripped into him because he didn't really have a great fight his last fight out, and it was his last fight on his contract. So UFC said they're not going to re-sign him. And so anyway, they publicly said they're not a fan of him for many reasons, and they decided not to re-sign him. But now he's saying he'll fight for free if they bring him back. I don't know if that's even legal, but if any organization would take a fighter up on that, it would be the UFC. But I just don't think they're going that way. He's probably going to end up in another organization. Okay, I got some betting previews, and I've got some best guesses, we'll call them, for UFC 305. The main event here is very tricky because we've got Dricus du Plessis, who's just across the pond there from Australia. He's from South Africa. And then we got Israel Adesanya, who is basically the hometown fighter, trying to get his title back. And he's lost two of his last three, but no slouches. Sean Strickland putting on a great performance against him in September of last year. Alex Pereira, he split two fights with him, won the last one, lost the one before it, the debut there, by knockout. So he kind of, he's really the last guy to beat Alex. So very impressive there. And in this one, Duplessis is coming in with a reputation for having a gas tank that runs out in the later rounds, and he fights kind of zombie-like, and just kind of trucks through. He's going to have a very heavy wrestling approach, I think. He's going to need it. He's going to need to probably win by ground and pounds or submission. Because I don't think he's going to go 5 rounds, even though he says he's dealt with his gas tank issues and his conditioning. I really like Adesanya by knockout in this one, but you could definitely hedge this one. Duplessis, I believe, is the underdog. Don't quote me on that. Pretty sure he is,
Right.
even though he's champ. Adesanya is well rested. Both of them are. They both last fought last year. So, actually, when did Duplessis last fight? He last fought, no, earlier this year in January. And he won that split decision with Sean Strickland. So if you're trying to do MMA math, you might say, oh, well, Strickland beat Adesanya and lost to Duplessis. So that means Duplessis is going to beat Adesanya. Well, Sean Strickland has two different types of fighters who show up sometimes. Sometimes it's the guy who's technically good enough to win. Other times it's the guy who just doesn't step on the gas himself when he needs to. And that's what we had in the Dricus Duplessis fight. And a lot of people said
You know,
Strickland won that fight.
every week we have to go over that A beat B and B beat C. So I mean, come on, it doesn't work.
Mm-mm. Never. But
In this case, Whittaker, Robert Whittaker, who's been in with both, is going with Dracus by decision. He said that he's so awkward that he looks easy to fight, but that awkwardness is a lot harder to deal with than it looks like.
yeah,
So,
I mean, he does have two of his last three wins by knockout in the second round. And actually, the last knockout before that was in the second round over Trevin Giles. So he's got three second round knockouts in the UFC. So that might be a parlay option there. Second round knockout for Duplessis. I don't hate betting Duplessis, but I think Adesanya's due for a good night. He wants to get back to the pinnacle. He's going to be at home. He's going to have the support of the crowd. And Duplessis is just can be very sloppy at times. And I think Adesanya is going to be crisp. So,
Oh, and by the way, the winner gets Sean Strickland.
oh boy.
Strickland will get the next shot. Yeah, Dana just came out and said that
Well, I have a big story on
because
Strickland.
Dracus did not want to fight Sean again immediately. But again, the beauty of it, the UFC over boxing is it doesn't matter what you want. And Dana said he promised Strickland the winner because I was kind of hoping Izzy could pull it off Saturday because I'd like to see that rematch. But what happens happens at this point.
Right. Well, we'll talk about it after we run this down, but Sean Strickland's making some heavy accusations lately against a big time UFC insider who was involved in some alleged nefarious activities. Um, and Strickland is really concerned that none of the MMA media is really picking up on it. So I'm actually trying to get in touch with him to see if he'll share more of the story with me, but we'll get into that in a minute. Co-main event, Kai Kara France versus Steve Urseg. And this is a weird one. Kai Kara France from Australia or New Zealand, same difference. Um, Steve Ursig is from Australia, from Myrie, Australia. So Steve will actually technically be the hometown guy, but Kai Kara France will definitely have fans in the stadium. He's lost his last two, Kai Kara France. They're very tough guys, but got TKO'd in the third round by Brandon Moreno and lost a split decision to Amir Albazi in his last fight. And before that, he was on a three-fight win streak against some pretty tough guys. Lost to Brandon twice. Brandon Moreno, that is. Then he lost to Brandon Royval to take his second UFC loss. And then those other two I just mentioned. Meanwhile, Steve Ursig only lost two fights in his entire life professionally. And one of them was to Alexander Pantoja in a very competitive unanimous decision win. But he was actually making a big comeback attempt late in that fight and landing a lot of elbows, which were very devastating. They cut open Pantoja a little bit and made it a little bit more of a difficulty than it was expected to be for him to win that one. So I like Urseg in this one. A lot of the experts do. There's a guy, AJ DeVito, from an MMA betting platform called MMA Experts, of all things, like I say, the experts. He's got a couple parlay ideas here that are worth talking about. Almost all of them have Urseg in them. Money line.
Yeah,
So,
I would agree. He's got he's got the energy. He's got the momentum.
yeah. Yeah, I like him a lot. He's kind of nerdy looking. He looks like, he put on a pair of glasses and go to college classes all day. You would never believe he was a fighter. But
Don't judge a book by its cover.
yeah. And Kai is kind of a little Mike Tyson's punch out type of fighter. He's just got to jump off the ground to hit most people. He's a very short guy. He's a little skinny dude, and Urseg is skinny too, but he's tall. So I think he's gonna give him his third loss in a row, and he's again gonna be the hometown guy winning. And we've got Mateusz Gamrot, 24-2 against Dan Hooker, who is 23-12. I was watching one guy from Sherdog. He's like sponsored by Sherdog or something. His name's Sean Sheehan, and he's got a bet here parlay recommendation of Adesanya Rosenstruck, that's the next fight. Jerry Zeno Rosenstruck versus Tai Tuivasa. We'll talk about that in a second. He's got Adesanya, Rosenstruck, Urseg, and Gamrot in his main parlay. I don't know what the odds are of that, but that seems pretty smart to me. Although a lot of people are talking that Tuivasa might have a good chance to win. He also recommends a flyer on Duplessis by TKO. And if you're going to pick a method for Adesanya, he'd go with decision. But I don't know. I think he's got Adesanya's going to knock him out when he gets tired. We'll see. But Sheehan was funny because he's going through his introductions and talking about the fights, and he just like pauses for a minute, and he's got like a Scottish accent or an Irish accent or something. So after the pause, he says, "Oh, excuse me, I was looking at a Hooker, Dan Hooker, the fighter." But he said, Hooker, like a hooker. Like, oh man, I should get that on the audio and just like play that on the show from time to time for a sound effect. It would be hilarious. Oh, excuse me, I was looking at a hooker. But Gamrot is another wrestling heavy type of guy. He's 24-2 coming in. Hooker 23-12. He's another one of those unpredictable guys. You just don't know who's going to show up. Sometimes he comes in and just mows people right down. Just walks through guys. Other times he has, boring decisions. Or other times he gets knocked out quick. He's had 2 first round finish losses, 2021 and 2022, before he started winning again against Claudio Puelles and Jalen Turner. But he lost to Islam Makhachev and Arnold Allen. No cheap dates there. First round stoppages there. And Michael Chandler before that by TKO in the first. Dustin Poirier by decision. Edson Barboza knocked him out in the 3rd round. And Gamrot is right up there with those guys as far as name recognition and talent. Only guy he's lost to recently is Beneil Dariush, and then Guram Kutaladze back in 2020 by split decision. Dariush was unanimous decision. So I think Gamrot gets done here. The only question is the method. I just don't see a lot of submissions recently. Although a knee to the body made Diego Ferreira submit apparently in 2021. And then Jeremy Stevens got submitted in 2021 as well, so that was a good year for submissions for Gamrot. But most of the time he's TKOing or decisioning people since then. So I like him by TKO or decision. All right. Steve Urchek. They call him Astro Boy for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to be an astronaut. Steve Urchek. All right. Tai Tuivasa versus Josino Rosenstruck. Rosenstruck known perhaps most for having his last second knockout over, what was his name? Alistair Overeem. There's 4 seconds left in the fight, in a 5-round fight, and he knocked out Overeem.
Which he lost every minute of
Yeah.
until that happened. That guy's got power,
Yeah.
and his opponent is getting knocked out a lot. But
He's had a lot of ups and downs, Rosenstruck. Tai Tuivasa has kind of hit a roadblock. He's lost his last 4. Facing pretty high level guys, but still. He was just
it's going to be fun while it lasts.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a quick one. I don't think it's going to go to the last seconds of the 3rd round. But Rosenstruck is not that easy to knock out. Volkov did it in the 1st round, and let's see, who else did it? Jailton Almeida submitted him in the 1st round. Francis Ngannou did it in the 1st round, but it's Tai Tuivasa on the Volkov and Ngannou level. I don't think so. So Tai Tuivasa, I mean, he's probably going to have to knock him out to win. But Rosenstruck, I think, is the odds-on favorite here to win by TKO or maybe even decision. He knocks guys out as late as the fourth round, too. Shamil Gaziev in his last fight, he knocked him out in the fourth. Overeem in the fifth. Andrei Arlovsky in the first. Alan Crowder in the first. A lot of knockout wins in the UFC. He does have a lot of losses. So this one is kind of a toss-up. I mean, I like Tuivasa. He is the hometown guy here who might lose. He's from South Wales, Sydney, South Wales. Uh, he's got that 4-loss record though. 4-fight losing streak, I should say. And the farthest he went was 4 minutes and 23 seconds of the third round. So we might get another Rosenstruck last second miracle here. He is tending to be stopped by submissions and TKOs in his last four. So I don't see Rosenstruck getting a submission. He has 0 to his credit. 13 of his 14 wins come by way of knockout, and he's got 1 decision. So I think it's safe to go Rosenstruck TKO on this one. That's my final answer. And we got Jiangliang Li, 19-8 at welterweight, fighting Carlos Prates, who is 19-6, and Prates, I don't know exactly how you pronounce it, but he's another guy that a lot of the experts like. And the guy at MMA Experts has a really good parlay I would recommend. He has Steve Erceg, Carlos Prates, Jack Jenkins going up against Herbert Burns, who nobody is really giving any shot except for MMA Play 365. Apparently, they're the only ones. The AI system over at MMA Play 365 has Herbert Burns winning, but he's one of those hometown guys that probably doesn't have a chance in hell here. But Jack Jenkins, 12-3, 5 knockouts, 3 submissions, 4 decision wins, and he's only lost recently due to an injury. Injured his arm against Jose Mariscal. But yeah, Jenkins by TKO or sub is in that parlay. So we got Erceg, Prates, Jenkins by TKO or sub. And then we got Keenan Song in the second fight of the night. And he's also going with Dricus Duplessis and Tuivasa. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight parlay. That's what he calls his savage parlay. He's got his savage parlay and he's got his degenerate parlay. Those are the ones with the highest odds that he gives out. Ian Parker over at ESPN does his picks too. He just did 2 that I saw. Adesanya moneyline and Erceg moneyline. You can parlay those 2. Probably make some money off that. His other picks, AJ DeVito over there at MMA Experts. He's got Erceg, Gamrot, Prates by moneyline. Also, he recommends the over 1.5 on Prates fight. Jenkins by TKO or sub. We got Tom Nolan. He's in the third fight of the night against Alex Reyes, who's 13-4. Nolan 7-1. He's got Nolan. Tuivasa by knockout. Duplessis by moneyline. He's big on Tuivasa. He's gonna be crying when Tuivasa gets his ass kicked. This is the guy that I said had the lock of the week. That was a complete bomb a few weeks ago. Anyway, Erceg, Jenkins, and Gamrot is plus 140 if you just do money line. So that might be a good bet. Erceg, Tuivasa, and Duplessis by themselves. That's a plus 825 bet. So if you want to keep it 3 to 4 legs, those are 2 3-legged ones. All right. So what didn't we cover yet? All right. Junior Tafa coming in at 5-2, and Walter Walker at 11-1. I like Walker in this one. Tafa is just not really impressed me lately. And then we got Joshua Kulibayao, who's 11-3, fighting Ricardo Ramos, who is 16-6 at featherweight. I haven't really analyzed that one personally, but I think I have seen a lot of good stuff out of Kulibayao, so I like him. And we got Casey O'Neill fighting Luana Santos. Santos seems to be the betting favorites. He's 8-1. O'Neill 9-2 though. No cheap date. As I always say, to go the distance might be your safest bet in a female fight anywhere. That's no exception right there. Jack Jenkins, talked about him. Herbert Burns is 11-5. He had that one of his real famous fights where he just basically quit. TKO retirement against Bill Algeo on July of 2022. Quit in the second round. You don't see that often in MMA. In fact, I found it disturbing at times when fighters come in all beaten up and they're coming into their corner before the last round and their corner just won't accept that they're not that they're out of the fight and there's no chance to win. And it's you hardly ever see a corner throw in the towel in the UFC in particular, but in MMA across the board, really, it's just never happens. So a lot of people are not giving Herbert Burns any time of day in this one. He's got 3 straight TKO losses, if you count the retirement. All in the second round, but I think Jack Jenkins doesn't take that long. I think he gets it before the first round ends. But yeah, Herbert Burns is from Brazil too. Usually they produce a lot better caliber fighter than that, but not the best matchup for him there. Tom Nolan is 7-1, fighting Alex Reyes 13-4. Another Australian native, Tom Nolan. They call him the Big Train. He's only lost 1 fight in his whole career, and that was to Nicholas Mata in the very first round. Got knocked out at UFC Fight Night 234 in January. Came up through the Contender Series with a first round knockout of his own, and then beat Victor Martinez in his second UFC fight by first round knockout. So I guess Tom Nolan by first round knockout is becoming a pattern. You're gonna bet for him to win. Definitely TKO, possibly first round. Alex Reyes, his opponent, also has 9 TKO wins. KO or TKO wins to go with 4 losses, 3 by TKO, 1 by decision. He's got 4 submissions as well. No decisions. So if you're going to bet Alex Reyes, pretty safe bet, KO or submission. It's probably not going to go the distance. He's lost a couple in a row, though, both by first round knockout. Big coincidence. So Tom Nolan by first round knockouts really looking good. I see a pattern. I don't need a crystal ball for that. That is statistics right there. All right, Keenan Song versus Ricky Glenn. This is a journeyman battle here. Keenan is 21-8. Ricky is 22-8 with 2 draws. So that is going to be a competitive fight, I think. At least on paper, it looks like it that way. Keenan Song, 9 knockout wins, 9 submissions, 3 decisions. Does have 4 knockout losses, 4 decision losses. And he's lost 2 of his last 4 by knockout. One to Ian Gary, the other one to Max Griffin. And lost the unanimous decision to Kevin Jousset in his last fight. Only win in his last 4 was against Rolando Bedoya by unanimous decision. Ricky Glenn, meantime, has 13 of his 22 wins by knockout. 6 decisions, 3 submissions, and he's lost 2 by knockout, 2 by submission, and 4 by decision. And he is another one that's lost most of his last few fights. It had 1 draw and 1 win, but he lost 3 of his last 5 in that stretch. Did knock out Joaquim Silva in the first round, though, so it was a pretty impressive win. He gets a lot of decisions. in the UFC anyway. He's got 2 decision wins. Lost to Drew Dober and Christos Giagos in his last 2 fights, both by first round knockout. And lost to Kevin Aguilar back in 2018 in the Ultimate Fighter finale. No, he wasn't part of the Ultimate Fighter. He was just fighting on the finale show. But yeah, he's fought some pretty tough competitors over the years. Should definitely be a loser leaves town type of thing. Loser doesn't get a contract renewal. It's kind of how the UFC usually does it. Keenan's been around for a while. I think a lot of people are giving him the edge. That one might be one I just stay away from. It's just too many uncertainties there. And then we gotta pray for this one because Jesus is involved here. Jesus Santos Aguilar. He's looking for a win here. He's looking to walk on water against Stuart Nickel. He's 8-0 at flyweight. So it's gonna take a miracle to beat him. That's Nickel's an Australian guy from Brisbane. He has got 4 knockout wins, 3 submissions, and 1 decision. So probably a safe bet if you're going to pick him to go by TKO or submission. 1 decision came in March of 2021. And he's got a lot of first round finishes. More knockouts than submissions, but he likes the rear naked choke and the inverted triangle choke. Also has a reverse triangle armbar, whatever that is. His first 3 fights all won by submission, and he's been knocking people out since. Yeah, he's got 4 knockouts in a row. Jesus doesn't get knocked out, though. He's got 0 knockout losses. Has been submitted twice. So if you're going to bet against him, you might want to go submission. He only has 1 knockout win of his own, 6 submissions, and 3 decision wins. Although, back in July of 2023, that was his last knockout, and it only took him 17 seconds to take out Shannon Ross. That is almost a record, I bet. He came up through the Contender Series in 2022, and he's got 1 loss to Tatsuro Taira by armbar. And it's basically one of the same methods that Stuart Nickel got his wins on his early career. So, but he does like his submissions too. He won the Dana White Contender Series fight by guillotine choke, and he's got a bunch of those. So watch out for the guillotine, Nickel. I don't know. This one is tough to pick. I'd guess Nickel by TKO or submission. But he'd be the first guy to TKO Jesus. But Aguilar, I'd have to pick him by decision. He likes his decisions. He hasn't actually had an official UFC fight that ended in anything but a KO or a decision. He just had the Dana White Contender Series and by submission. So I'm going to go against Jesus. I hate to say it, but Stuart Nickel.
How dare you?
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Jesus. Can't pick you. I might put a flyer out on Jesus, just in case. Miracles are possible. Well, let's just check what MMA Play 365 has given us. The AI machine. Might as well share my subscription payment every month with our viewers, listeners. They've got a couple crazy ones here I don't necessarily agree with. They like Jesus, actually. They got Jesus to win. They have a winning percentage of 57.38% for Jesus. And that's part of their top 6 win only parlay. Like one, Walter Walker. Not a big surprise. He's got a great record. He's 62.24% win percentage. His money line odds are minus 165. I don't know where they get that. They just call it the American money line. All services are different. You should shop around on some of these if you're going to bet them. Dricus Duplessis is leg number 2. They're calling him DDP now, too. That's funny. I think the other DDP is way better.
Only one DDP.
Yeah, I know. It's been your pleasure. We know. Dricus, leg number 2, win only. He is 60.28%. That's a surprise to me. Moneyline odds of negative 152, although I think he's a slight underdog right now. And we got Tom Nolan, win only, 59.92%. I agree with that one. He has negative 150 on the money line. Li Liang, 57.67%. Chance, he's negative 136. And then we got Jesus again, he's negative 135. 57.38%. Matus Gamrot, no big surprise there. 56.57% odds winning. Negative 130 American money line. And we'll go into the top 6 and method of victory bets. Tom Nolan, they like by knockout. 46.74%. Rosenstruck, no surprise, they like by knockout. Walter Walker, they like by knockout. Luana Santos by decision. See, they're catching on to the female fights going the distance. And Herbert Burns to win by submission. That is disgusting. They should be shot for making that prediction. That's an AI, so that probably won't do much. Carlos Prates by TKO. Not sure that's going to be the outcome, but I like Prates in that one. 31.35% to win by knockout. And that money line odd is plus 219. I think that's good with the decision method. But yeah, Herbert Burns by submission is only plus 218. I just don't think he's got a shot in hell. But it is what it is. Of course, when they go to the rounds, once again, the AI is picking everything in the first round, which I think it's broken. Especially the one I just talked about, where the guy's got like 3 UFC wins in the second round. I forget which guy that was, but doesn't their AI take that kind of shit into account? Every single guy. They got Jesus Aguilar winning by submission in round 1. Don't think that's going to happen. Herbert Burns winning by submission in round 1. Steve Erceg winning by submission in round 1. Walter Walker by KO in round 1. Tom Nolan by KO in round 1. And Jairzinho Rosenstruck by KO. The only ones that make sense are leg 1 and leg 2. Rosenstruck and Nolan by first round knockout. Those are the only ones I would say go for. Give it a try. The other ones, they are out to lunch. The AI is smoking something. That is awe. Yeah, I don't think I've won a single parlay that they've put together yet. So as far as AI goes, that one definitely does not work. I don't know about Chat GPT might be different. I don't know. I've actually tried the Facebook version where they have the AI search. You can do best bets on there too, and they'll give them to you. But they're mostly focused on what are the best bets according to the odds, not like who's actually going to win. But it's funny that they will spit out data at you when you ask them about bets. All right, so that's about does it for upcoming events, big stories. Oh, I was going to mention the Sean Strickland thing. So Sean Strickland was approached by this guy. He's got an Instagram video out now and a Facebook video on this. He said he really deliberated on whether to put it out there or not, but he did put it out there, explain the situation. So one of his friends said, "Hey, maybe you should look into this guy Tiki Gosen, who is a manager, and maybe we should see about getting him to manage you. He could make you a lot of money." So Sean Strickland had already heard bad things about this guy. And after his friend mentioned that he should manage him, he said, "I don't know, I heard some bad stuff about him." And he told another friend about this, and he said, "Oh yeah, there's you think that's bad? You should hear this." And this other guy's daughter was at his gym and got basically uh, groomed. And turns out this Tiki Gosen dude is like a sexual predator, likes the young women. So Sean Strickland started hearing all this stuff. Turns out he actually reached out to the girl's father. And of course, Tiki Gosen's pissed off. He's actually a longtime UFC insider. He's good friends with the Fertitas, very good friends with Dana White. Dana White used to manage him before he owned the UFC, or before he became president of the UFC. He didn't own it for a while, but um, even back when he was president of the UFC, Tiki Gosen was like a big time insider. So Sean Strickland's main concern was all this stuff is out there about this guy being a predator. And there's even a lawsuit that mentions Gosen is involved in cocaine trafficking. So, I mean, just bad dude all around. But he's an insider with the UFC, so he's like very protected. And even after Strickland went on a rant and talked about all this on social media, um, basically nobody in the MMA media really jumped on the story. There's a couple stories that just mention what Strickland has said, but nobody's really independently investigated any of this. And sounds like something that's right up my alley. So I put a comment on the video. Hey, if you really want to expose this, let me know. And I have experience being sued for defamation. But Tiki Gosen has apparently threatened to sue him for defamation. But Sean Strickland has actually talked to one of the girl's fathers, knows him personally. And she is like devastated over it. She's really badly affected by it. And she says if he ever does get sued, she will back him up 100% in court. So that would be quite the bombshell if it's really exposed. But, the MMA media, they call them UFC nut huggers for a reason. I don't see it really getting exposed on a massive scale, though there are some entities that have turned against the UFC quite a bit in recent years and have been willing to write more dangerous stuff than I've been used to seeing. But nothing really about this has hit the radar. There's a couple obscure sites that have just written basically the account that Sean shared and written about that and his willingness to fight against a defamation case. And he said he'll even crowdfund the the funding source for his lawyers, Sean, to further publicize it, which is a great idea. I mean, we always talk about how fighters just don't use their platforms to do good, especially in MMA. Not so much in boxing. You've got a few guys like Anthony Joshua is big on the homeless. And Tyson Fury even has given away his purses to the homeless. So uh, boxing tends to be more philanthropic in that regard. But Sean is willing to expose his own, situation in the UFC and risk that by calling out like a friend of the boss here. And he's been very controversial over the years, but this one he seems to be locked onto for some reason and does not care about the consequences. So that just tells me that he's onto something. And he's real personally upset over this, that this guy is being thrown around as a good manager, but he's like piece of shit human being. So yeah, that's your gossip of the week, but I think it's true gossip. I've also got to look at it from a legal perspective, and since Strickland hasn't really gone into detail about what the guy did, it'd be really hard to file a defamation case against him. So basically, all he said is he thinks the guy's a predator. Um, an opinion is very protected, especially when you are a public figure, which you would be qualified as. There, you have to show actual malice. It's the biggest attribute of a defamation case with a public figure. There's that qualification. You have to show actual malice. You have to show that that person is pissed enough to make shit up about you, and is doing it to piss you off rather than expose something that he's concerned about. So that's going to be a hard sell. But maybe we'll hear from Sean on this. Maybe we'll get more information, and maybe some other media outlets will pick up on it. But I'm definitely going to be following it for sure. There was also another kind of related story. It might have been a setup, but some girl from OnlyFans accused Alex Pereira of sexual assault. And then she was accused of clout chasing, and all kinds of people broke down her story and exposed some of the lies she told. Big mess there, too. But this one is definitely more criminal type than he said, she said sexual encounter. This seems more criminal minded, deviant, you should say. So, and it's, somebody that's really high up in the UFC inside circle. So, kind of reminds me of when I first got the Giants news. And I had said, oh, geez, I'd love to be a Giants sponsor. I'd love to be sponsored by Giants. They're sponsoring everybody. Why not? And then some guy was like, oh, you might want to look at this. So that really was what got me into the story. And the same type of thing happened here. Somebody said, hey, maybe this guy should manage you. And he said, no, not that guy. Crazy stuff. Anyway, that's it for me. You guys got anything else to add?
I do not.
All right.
From home tomorrow, so I'm in lots of a horrible mood.
Well, there you go. Well, Philly's.
Oh, by the way, Rich, I was able to spend 4 hours watching the Miss Cleo
Oh, you did
Saturday.
watch it. All right.
Oh boy!
What'd you think?
And well, when I was doing it, I worked remotely. I heard they did have some phone rooms, but when I got on that network, they just sent some tips. They didn't actually send a complete script, but I think it was pretty accurate with the management of that company. They were really bottom fishing scumbags, and you had to feel bad for her. She just got caught up in it. But now, did you watch both of the episodes there?
I didn't,
Of it?
but I'm gonna make a point to watch them before the next episode here, so we can chit chat about it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, initially the feds had no idea that she was just kind of a figurehead.
Yeah.
But then when they got into it, they turned the tables. And sad news is Fetter and Stoltz still had a lot of money, but the company was over with at that point. And Miss Cleo got out of it, but it took her years to really recover. And then she died a few years ago.
Hmm.
So quite a story.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the best fraud documentaries out there is The Pharmacist. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but it's all about opioid abuse. There was probably like 6 or 7 of those documentaries connected to some type of opioid on Netflix within a year, and that was the first. And it's great because they've got the lady who ran this one shady clinic. They finally got the interview with her at the end, and I think she ended up even doing some prison time over it. But they finally caught her and exposed her, and then she ended up hooked on the opioids after a car accident. So, it just came full circle. Like, it was total karma for her situation. But yeah, I'll have to check that out, and we'll talk more about it next week for sure. All right. That's all she wrote.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you as always. Trying to keep me.
All right, guys. Let's enjoy the fight this weekend.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Good luck with the work situation, Tony.
oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Keep your head up.
Let's try. Keep fighting, right?
Yeah. All right. Next week.